Good morning. We are
Frozen. No, we're not.
we're here to do the Q&A again today, and we have a new camera that we're trying out and excited about, and we want to welcome you to our Tuesday Q&A.
Welcome, welcome.
I'm Joe. I'm one of the pastors here at WestWay.
Oh yeah, I'm Mike. I'm one of the other pastors here at WestWay.
We didn't have any questions this week following the message. We had a lot of comments following the message this week. It's just a little bit weird yet for us doing everything online, and we are really appreciative of you and you're being patient with us. Talking to a screen is kind of weird when you're doing the message. And
Yeah, I was just gonna say, instead of talking to the screen, we need to talk to the camera.
Yep,
Because we're both like this. So.
I think that's my posture right now. It definitely was on Sunday. And so we're getting used to all of that. And from the news that we heard yesterday, it sounds like we're still going to be doing this for a few more weeks as far as the messages online. And so we're hoping that we can become a little bit more comfortable with that and a little more proficient at it and as professional as we can. How's things going at your house? Your kids have been home now for how many weeks?
Yeah, they're doing okay. Little stir crazy, obviously. We have allowed our kids to go. I mean, we take them out like to a park, or we went and walked by the river, went out to the lake one day. Different things like that we're trying to keep active, not just sitting at home in pajamas, although sometimes I come home and they're in their pajamas. But they've got school stuff starting to get ironed out. I think the schools are working hard to get those issues all settled and get everything, all the assignments where they need to be, when they need to be there, and starting to figure out the rhythm of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Your kids are all old enough that they're pretty good at staying busy, probably, finding stuff to do.
Well, there's always a video game or something to watch, so
Yeah.
it's easy for them to fall into that trap. And so we're trying to not get stuck in that too much. But as far as the schoolwork goes, my kids do a pretty good job of self-motivating and getting their stuff done when they need to. So, yeah, they're old enough that we don't have to nag at them and force them to sit at the table and mostly do their work.
Yeah.
So
I have one of the things I wanted to mention today is that I have seen on Facebook some posts that parents have shown pictures of their kids doing their schoolwork at home, not only within our congregation but within my Facebook friends, and it's been fun watching some of the techniques that parents have used to get their kids excited about doing the homework. And I appreciate it when you parents share those ideas on Facebook, and it might give somebody else an idea of how to make it a little bit more fun for their kids.
Yeah, I don't want to give the wrong impression. My kids aren't excited to do their homework.
I've seen one particular mom has been really creative. One of the things that she did was she had shaving cream that she allowed them to put on the table, and that's the way they did their math. They wrote in the shaving cream. And I thought, that's awesome. I would love to do that. I wish I would have done that when I was a kid.
I don't think that'll work for my kids' math.
Probably not. Probably not. But
actually, Dakota has enjoyed. Like, he has all these assignments, and he can just sit down and work and not have to stop and
wait for somebody else
to catch up, or listen to the teacher explain something again that he got the first time. And so he's enjoyed that part of it, I will say. But
has there been any anxiety within your house and concern about now we have a confirmed case here in our area?
I don't know that that has ratcheted up the level of anxiety much for us. Uh, Basically, we still are doing the same, like wash your hands.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing right now, I think. Um, and I think too that all kids, two things, they process anxiety, like everybody processes anxiety differently. And so
Yeah.
you might have to watch for something very different than what I would experience with my kids. And the second thing is their anxieties feed off of our anxieties as parents. And
That's a
so
good
we need
point.
to be careful in
Yeah.
our discussions and even in what we are finding ourselves paying attention to a lot. They are noticing that as well. They
Mm-hmm.
are overhearing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we need to be careful of casting our anxieties onto them,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they really feed off of that and can get into some unhealthy worry if we're not careful with what we do with our anxiety. And I think it's one thing to be concerned and be cautious, and it's another thing to be fearful
Yeah.
and full of anxiety. And I
Right.
think our culture is experiencing that right now. We're in a situation where there is stuff going on that we don't understand and we don't have any control over. We didn't do anything to cause it. We didn't do anything probably yet to make it worse or make it better. There might not be anything that any of us as individuals can do to make it better or worse for a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is something that like we can be cautious about how we're spending our time, the way we're interacting with other people from a distance, the way the amount. My hands are a lot drier now than they typically are, and my hands are already pretty dry. But we need to be washing our hands. We need to be
Keeping them
just
away from our
cautious
face.
about all the things that the doctors are telling us to do.
Yeah.
And they don't just tell us that stuff for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have a contest to see who can touch their face the least.
I would lose in a heartbeat. That's hard for me.
Especially when you start talking about it.
Yep, yep. We were in a Zoom chat or a Zoom meeting last night, and somebody mentioned it in that meeting, and you looked at the screen. I think there were 16 of us in that meeting, and you look at the screen, and there were almost half of them that all of a sudden you could see the tension, the trying to keep their hands away from their face.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we need to be aware of that, and we need to be careful to help our kids understand, even and maybe we need to be reminded of this ourselves. We're not really in control.
Yeah.
And we don't need to be. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In a situation like this, we can see we just feel out of control, and we don't like that. But the reality is we are never in control. There is a God in heaven who is in control, and he's not surprised by what's going on in our situation. This didn't catch him off guard. His kingdom is way bigger than this.
Yeah.
And it's tough sometimes to live we live so long with the illusion that we're in control, and then to just be slapped in the face with, hey, guess what? You're not. It's hard for us. And the natural response is fear and anxiety. But the bottom line is we serve a God who understands perfectly what's going to happen and is continuing to work in the situation that we find ourselves in, and is going to continue to work in whatever situation we find ourselves in.
I think there's a natural part to this also, especially as parents, or someone that's a leader in some area or another. I think about the responsibility that we feel to lead our children. I think of the responsibility in my daily reading. I've been reading about the children of Israel going through the desert, and getting ready to go into the promised land. And one of the stories in there is where the children of Israel are complaining because it's dry. It's a desert area and there's nothing to drink. And Moses feels like he needs to take care of it. And there's that natural feeling of, Moses knew that God was the one that was going to provide, but there's that natural feeling of, why don't you guys trust him? And so instead of doing what God tells him to do, to speak to the rock, he, in his anger and frustration, hits the rock and the water comes out. And I think that's a natural thing for us, to forget that God's the one that's in control and that we don't have to do it ourselves. And I think Moses felt that same thing. I know I felt it as a parent.
I got to do something.
Yeah, I'm responsible.
Yeah.
and so it is. It's an interesting time we're going through, and maybe this is a time where God is wanting us to draw our attention back to Him and trust Him. Like Mike has said, we are not in control. He is. And to recognize that is really what He's asking us to do. And this is a time that reminds us of that.
Yeah. And I think, too, we need to recognize there are some things that we are in control of.
Right.
And we take responsibility for those, and we do our diligence to take care of what we can take care of.
Mm-hmm.
You are responsible for how clean your hands are. You have control of that. And so wash them.
Yeah.
And do what you can to not spread whatever virus you might have picked up somewhere. That's what you can do. And that's what all of us can do. Yeah. But I don't think we really intended to sit here and talk about hygiene habits, but obviously that's kind of at the forefront of everybody's minds right now. So
there is one thing that we did want to talk about, though, and that was how can you stay connected with the body of Christ? And I'd like, Mike, if you would share a little bit of you've put together a list, we've put together a list, but you kind of spearheaded that of ways that you can stay connected. And so if you could share a little about that.
Yeah, we have, and we'll share the link here when we're finished. But we have a little graphic that we put together that has some of the ways that we have set up already of keeping in touch. Mm-hmm. We as a body have been brought together by God for a purpose, and that purpose hasn't changed. And so one of the things that we've been doing is setting up some online interactions, whether it's stuff like this that we've been doing for a while, every Tuesday, or some additional small group meetings that are happening via Zoom, which is an online platform for meeting together. If you haven't heard of that, that's something it's been pretty popular the last couple of weeks. So anyway, with this graphic, it lists some of our small groups, and we're going to do our best to keep those up to date. Each Zoom meeting has its own sort of code that we have to enter in. So group leaders will get us the codes, and we'll enter those so that you have a link into your small group meetings. Some of those right now are specifically opening up to new people. We also have some videos that we've been doing each week. Well, actually each day, John has been posting in the morning devotional, mm-hmm. just some thoughts and kind of sharing some prayer together, what the body can be praying for each other. There's a link to those. Those are being posted every morning on Facebook, and you can find those pretty easily if you follow John. Or the WestWay page or the WestWay group. They're showing up all over there. And we've got some Sunday school classes that are also meeting via Zoom. So we have some links to those. The high school class will get started this week with a Zoom class. Our high school and middle school, actually I should say high school and middle school class. But also during the Wednesday nights, we've been meeting by Zoom, and that's been really good. So if you're a teen that sees this or a parent that sees this of a teen and you haven't received those links, send me an email or even just comment here and we'll make sure you get that link to the youth group Zoom for Wednesday night. And yeah, we're going to continue to experiment with some things. We'll probably try some new things. There'll be some new links popping up.
So
one of the things that we talked about is having some kind of watch parties or even Zoom meetings for Sunday morning, while the Sunday morning time that we've had together has been online the last couple of weeks, and that's gone well, and we've had good interaction through YouTube and Facebook. We can set up some things to do kind of some watch parties where we're watching together in some small groups on Zoom or possibly some other platforms. We're still experimenting to get those set up, even maybe some for this week. And some I know have invited like another couple over to their house to watch Sunday morning together and just to be together on Sunday morning. I think there's social distancing and there's self-isolation, but I think we need to be really careful to make sure that we're staying connected during this time, because we are on a mission that requires us to be together. Maybe not physically together, but in spirit together. We cannot accomplish the mission that God has for us on our own.
Right.
And so we have to stay connected in order to stay on mission.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the ways that we're working on that. We're trying to figure out as we go how to best keep people spiritually together as a body. And also to be a presence in your neighborhood, even if not in physical contact with your neighbors. Making phone calls, chatting on FaceTime, or there's all kinds of yell across the street when you're walking by. But
Sunday afternoon, I went golfing with one of my sons and a friend, and the golf course was more full of people than I've ever seen it before, because people were wanting to get out. It was a nice afternoon. But one of the things I noticed driving there and back was the number of people that were sitting outside their house, either in front of their house or behind their house. And when for like at our place, we have a lot of people that walk up and down our street. And we're a long ways away from our sidewalk, or at least plenty far enough away that we're not going to affect them when they walk by. But we can have conversation when they go by. And I think that's an awesome way. Take advantage of the nice days that we have and sit out in front of your house and say hi to the people as they come by. I have a son in Omaha, and on Sunday night, I think it was Sunday night, they baked some cookies, and they went up to the doors of the neighbors' houses, put the cookies by the door, and rang the doorbell, and it had a little note in it. And sometimes the people would see them coming, they'd come get them, and they'd talk then at a distance. Yeah. Be creative about how to get out and to share with each other without getting too close. And so that's what we're encouraging. And the idea of staying together via Zoom in some of those meetings is ways that we can still interact and have the small group or Sunday school type atmosphere where we can discuss scripture together and encourage each other to grow in that way. I wanted to go back to, with the junior high and high school, you do the Wednesday night Zoom, and then the normal Sunday school class, junior high and high school Sunday school class, they're going to try to do that this week. Is that correct?
Yes.
They're hoping to anyway.
Yes.
And so if you're
some details, but
if you're in that class, you can expect or hope to expect in this week or the next week to be contacted to join that Zoom. If you would like to be included in that, like Mike said, I think that's a great opportunity for you guys to be together. And so let us know on that.
Yeah, and if you're seeing this and you're not getting some of the links that we mentioned, please reach out and let us know. We send out a weekly email from the church that is kind of an overall update, and we've been doing that for a long time. If you're not, like, we try to get everybody on that list, but I know I check our stats sometimes on our MailChimp, and sometimes like half or 40 to 55% is the open rate. And so we send out a lot. Like, we send out a message to a lot of addresses. Mm-hmm. Some of those don't get seen. Many of those don't get seen. For me, like, I have a hard time not hurting at that. When I see, I sent out this email to all the parents and half of them didn't even open it. So I know sometimes that's because it doesn't get to your mailbox. It gets stuck in your trash or whatever. There's all kinds of reasons, I understand.
It may just
but
be that
it might
you're not in the
also be
habit.
that we don't have you in our database,
Yeah.
and we don't have the correct email address. So if you're not getting a weekly update that usually goes out on Wednesday from WestWay, let us know.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a parent who does not get the student ministry newsletter, now that one doesn't come out every week. That one comes out a little more sporadically, about every 20 or 30 days. With things going on the way they are right now, I'm trying to do that a little bit more often. But if you don't get those, and you're a parent of a teen, let me know and I will add you to the list. Or you can subscribe yourself to the list if you find the link. But then also, I would say, if you can go into your email settings and add office@westwaychurch.com, John@westwaychurch.com, Joe@westwaychurch.com, Shane@westwaychurch.com, and Mike@westwaychurch.com. If you add those as accepted or safe email addresses,
Right.
that will help us make sure that will help your email client or your email server allow our emails to get through to you a little better.
Without being thrown into the
Without
junk.
going into your spam folder
Yeah.
or your junk folder.
Yeah.
Because different servers treat those differently. And while it's easy to remember because we have short name at westwaychurch.com, sometimes that gets flagged as a spam type of message sender. So I know that's happened in the past. So if you can check your email settings and make sure that you have us all added as safe, that would help too.
Yeah. It was interesting in the Zoom conversation last night. We had one person that wondered where the list was with the links of the different groups that you could get in. And John mentioned it was in the email. And that individual goes, "Oh, I don't read my email very good." So if you're one of those that doesn't read your email all the time, it would be a good idea for you, at least in the middle of the week.
And it's hard right now. It's hard right now because we're all getting so many different emails from companies that we visited once 6 years ago that are wanting to reassure us that they're handling this with our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for emails to get lost in the shuffle. But the catch is that right now in the world we live in, that's one of the best ways that we have to get information out to a bulk of people.
Yeah.
So that's one that we're leaning on, and we're counting on you. You know, communication doesn't happen without a sender and a receiver. So as receivers, we have to do our part. As senders, we have to do our part. So check your email. Add us as safe email addresses. That would help greatly. And we're always available on the phone too. So yeah.
Well, all right. There was one thing that I was wanting to kind of add a little bit as far as a question or something for you to discuss or look up at home and think about, in addition to what I talked about on Sunday morning in the message. And one of the things that Paul had prepared Timothy to do at the church at Ephesus was to watch for the false teachers. And some of the characteristics of those false teachers, Paul talked about in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And the phrasing was, those kind of people do what they do to put on a show. That's Peterson paraphrase, but and he talks about that the second time in the 6th chapter. He talks about it in the 1st chapter, some also, but helps if you get in 1 Timothy and not 2 Timothy. There's not 6 chapters in 2 Timothy. Nope. Specifically verses 4 and 5, but I think I'll back up even to verse 3. Some people may contradict our teaching, but these are the wholesome teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ. These teachings promote a godly life. So that's the teachings that Paul had been giving Timothy throughout his letter. It's also the teachings that his mother and his grandmother taught him. And then he goes on to say, anyone who teaches something different is arrogant and lacks understanding. Such a person has an unhealthy desire to quibble over the meaning of words. This stirs up arguments, ending in jealousy, division, slander, and evil suspicions. These people always cause trouble. Their minds are corrupt, and they have turned their backs on the truth. And this is the part that jumped out at me. To them, a show of godliness is just a way to become wealthy. And it's all a show. It's the reason they were doing what they were doing was because they were putting on a show so that they could get money. And in my daily reading, I believe it was Saturday morning, I was in the book of Matthew in chapter 23, and Jesus is talking to the religious leaders there. And I'm just going to start at the beginning of that chapter and read a few verses here. It says, then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, and this is what he says. He says, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees are the official interpreters of the law of Moses. I like the way the NLT says that. They're the people that people went to figure out really what's the law saying in the Old Testament. And they were the ones that were responsible to explain that to him. And then Jesus goes on, he says, so practice and obey whatever they tell you, but don't follow their example. Wow. He says, for they don't practice what they preach. They crush people with unbearable religious demands and never lift a finger to ease the burden. Everything they do is for show. Did you catch that? Isn't that real similar to what Paul was saying to Timothy at the end of the first letter that he wrote him? Everything that they do is for show. And where was I? Going on in verse 5, on their arms they wear extra wide prayer boxes. We don't do that anymore. With scripture verses inside. And they wear robes with extra long tassels. And they love to sit at the head of the table at banquets and in the seats of honor in the synagogues. They love to receive respect or respectful greetings as they walk in the marketplaces and to be called rabbi. It was a show.
Yeah.
The question, I guess, that I wanted to reiterate this morning is, why do we do what we do as Christians? Is it really because we want to be more like Christ and to love people like he did? Or is it to draw attention to ourselves? Is it a show? I think that's what Paul was trying to encourage Timothy in. Do what you do because you love them. Do what you do because you want them to know about Christ. You want to proclaim him. Don't do it like the false teachers are doing to put on a show or to make money. Your motivation needs to be correct. And it's interesting that Jesus addresses that same thing here with the religious leaders of the time. I guess for me, I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, I want to be careful. And I think you do too. And I know that you do. I want to be careful that my motivation is correct. And I know that people will come to us and ask questions about Scripture. I pray that what they see in us is the desire to show them Christ. And that they will respond to that then.
Yeah, and I've always been really prayerful that what I do will match what I say.
Yeah.
I remember coming across this passage a long time ago, and I just remember thinking, how much would it suck to be those guys?
Yeah.
Because you think Jesus, hey, see these guys, these religious leaders, these teachers, they know their stuff. They are the experts. So do whatever they say. That's awesome. Great. And then Jesus pops the balloon and says, but just don't do what they do.
Yeah.
Like that would crush me to have that said of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, Mike, he's a pretty smart guy. Listen to what he says. Do what he tells you to do. Just don't live like him.
Whew.
That would hurt.
And then he goes on to call them hypocrites.
Yeah.
And blind guides.
And that wasn't a new thing either.
No.
All the way back in the book of Amos, God, through the prophet Amos, had that same message for the priests of Israel.
Yeah.
He said, I hate all your shows. Knock it off. Mm-hmm. Stop it. Don't bring me any more sacrifices. I'm not going to accept it because it's just a show for you. Here's what I want. I want a flood of justice. I want an endless train of righteousness. Mm-hmm. Right living. I want you to live the way that you are telling people they should live. I think we have a great opportunity right now to show the world what grace looks like, and to show the world what righteous living, what actually caring about people in the way that we treat them. Yeah. You know, sometimes you have to get out and go to the store. How are you treating the people that are working there? Be mindful of that, of how you are interacting. And I know physically we're like, we got to keep people at a distance. That's fine, but I can still make myself emotionally present to that person. Yep. And I don't always do a great job of that anyway. I get lost in my own head and my own thoughts, and it's like no one else is in the room or on the planet. We got to be careful because people are feeling isolated and people are feeling lonely. They're feeling like they don't matter. They're just a cog in a wheel. Mm-hmm. Or they're just feeling like I'm all alone. Yeah. We are here to say to the world, you are not alone. Yeah. And we can't stop saying that.
Yeah. We can't say that enough.
We can say it from 6 feet away, but we still need to say it. Yeah. Yeah. And we need to live it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. You know, it'd be good if you see a difference in the way things look today than the way they looked last week at the Q&A. Send us a comment. Is the quality a little better? Are there things that we need to adjust? We welcome that kind of feedback.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that you can hear better, that you can see better, even if we don't look better.
Maybe you see too much.
Yeah, maybe. So,
thanks for joining us today. We just want to encourage you. We love you guys, and if there is a need that you have, if you can't get out and you need help, please let us know. There are people that are still able to get out and get around and do things. And if we can help in that way, we want to do that. And so we're praying for you all, and have a good week.
Yep. Have a great week.
God bless.
Now we got to figure out how to turn this off.